Do not fear the man who read 1,000 books. Fear the woman who read one book 17 times. Hi, this is Two Girls, One Plot.
And we're here to read the next chapter in our Harry Potter reread, Diagon Alley.
Diagon Alley.
But before we start, we have a new segment called What Have You Been Reading Lately? Senya, what have you been reading lately?
I have been trying my hardest, my darn hardest, to read Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton, as I have been pretty much into the genre of memoir. I'm trying my hardest to read it because it is so aggressively British and it is so aggressively outside of my life experience that I find it really hard to read, actually, both in terms of relatability and the way it's written.
Fair enough. So, dear listener, there's a bit of a story to this book. Senya said, what are some memoirs you recommend? And I was like, do you mean like an interesting topic or a good writer? Because those are generally the two type of memoirs you get. You almost never get a good writer who has an interesting topic. And so one of them I suggested as a good writer was Dolly Alderton. Now, I will say, I concur with you that there's certain aspects of her life which are hard to understand. But one of the most hilarious moments for me is I didn't realize until after I finished the book that she was like canonically hot. And then so much of her book made sense. Like she just does this insane stuff and people are like, yeah, oh, Dolly, you're so cool and interesting.
Now that you've said that, this is what pretty privilege is. She kind of assumes, but I don't kind of assume that she's hot from the get-go. But yeah, so far I'm in that very weird place when she got drunk with dudes who are like 3 times her age.
Oh, and they like also got drunk with her mom, allegedly. That's the one part of this memoir where I'm just like, okay, Dolly,
I'm like, okay.
Guys, we introduced sound effects into our podcast. It's great.
Yeah. Today we are recording in the comfort of our own abode, which is great. I think we have finally set up our home little studio corner. Sometimes you may be hearing the sound of our cats or rats or our neighbors or something like that.
Unless you're a landlord and then there is only one cat and no rats here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're mistaken, sir.
Yeah, I said nothing.
So I have not been reading a bunch because, as you know, I had a couple things going on. But I read a book that you recommended. I haven't finished it. And this book is just vibes. It's really fun, and I don't think anything important is happening, but these women live in a small town in the South, and there's a murder.
Murder.
And they have to, like, and they don't have to. They've decided to solve the murder of a man they, like, don't know. And let me get the title of this book.
This is the title I always get wrong because it lists things.
Yeah, The Secret Book and Scone Society. It is, like, of lovingly cliched. That's not a real way to say it, but like there's nothing out of the ordinary in this book, and I'm having a great time. And they're just like, yeah,
right?
Of course the baker is kind of magic and will make you a customized scone based on the vibe she thinks you need.
And also the bookseller will magically choose a book for you that will heal your soul.
So our listeners will learn eventually to spend more time with us. I read books quite critically, and I don't mean like critically like I'm looking to have a bad time, but like if an author makes what looks like a pretty obvious error, I'm just like, I can't fucking believe they did that. Or, you know, they're playing with cliches and that sort of thing when they're trying to do something a bit more serious. I'm like very slow to forgive. But when it's a book which is wholeheartedly like, yeah, we're going to do this and it's cliched and stupid and it's going to be fun, I'm like, yeah, buckle me in.
Yeah, I do like some books that are leaning into cliches, ironically.
Yeah.
They do it ironically. One such book is, as I probably have told you before, there are various knockoff parodies of the Harry Potter series that exist in the vast world of Russian literature. And some of them have been hit by, what's it called?
Copyright infringement.
Copyright infringement, yes.
Not copyright, probably an IP infringement.
Yeah, so with the lawsuit. And some of them I genuinely like because they take the source material and make a parody of it, and they're not even ashamed of that. They fully lean into that, and they do not claim to be of any literary value. It's just fun.
And books that are just fun and like go into it being just fun are, they are what they say on the cover. They're just fun to read.
Exactly.
So today we have Diagon Alley, and that is actually quite a hefty chapter for Harry Potter. I think we've talked about this before. The chapters are quite short, but this one is almost, let's see, it goes from page 49 to 66. I can do math. That's 17 pages.
I will believe you. Your brother is a math teacher, not mine.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, 17 pages. So it's quite big, and a fair amount happens. Would you like me to do a brief summary?
Please.
So Harry wakes up and thinks, my goodness, was it all a dream? But no, it was real. And Hagrid's like, okay, we're going. We got wizard stuff to do. And they take the boat back to land and civilization. Hagrid is like, yeah, I'm going to use some magic. Don't tell anybody, small child. Let's keep our secrets together. And Hagrid's reading the paper while this happens, which is the one reason that Harry doesn't ask him more questions, because he had learned from Uncle Vernon that when a man is reading the paper, you don't interrupt him. And in whatever Muggle town they were in, Hagrid slows them down from getting where they need to go because he just keeps pointing at stuff and being like, aren't Muggles silly? Put a pin in this because this will be the main reason for most of the series why we understand why wizards and Muggles don't interact. Then it's off to London.
Yeah.
More specifically, Alley. And Harry, despite living like 40 minutes away, has never been to London.
This baffled me. He has never been to London.
Which, like, I guess I can kind of see, like, if Vernon was taking Dudley out to London, it would be just Dudley. Like, they wouldn't bring Harry. It kind of reminds me when I was, like, a kid. Well, I was, like, 13, 14. My friend took me to visit her family in China. And I was like, oh, I got to go to the Great Wall, which is, like, I was in Beijing. You can get access to it from Beijing. I'm sure given its size, you can access it elsewhere. And her uncle's been like, oh, yeah, I've never been there. And he's lived in Beijing all his life.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I think some people just when you're near something so much, you don't participate in it. But they go to Diagon Alley. But how does one get to Diagon Alley? You get there through the Leaky Cauldron. And I really appreciate how Hagrid's like, this is a very famous place. And then you go in and it looks like just a regular pub. The people there are delighted to see Hagrid, but very delighted to see Harry. And Harry gets his first taste of stardom with people lining up to shake his hand over and over again.
Which he's absolutely baffled by.
He's kerfuffled. Then we get to meet someone who will become important, Professor Quirrell, who is very nervous and is not described as wearing a turban. Then, with some well-placed taps on bricks, Hagrid takes Harry to Diagon Alley, and Harry is amazed. He wished he had 8 more pair of eyeballs so he could look around at everything that was happening. But first, they have to go to Gringotts. And Gringotts is, in my opinion, the closest Harry Potter gets to having a pre-made ride for an amusement park. I have not been to any of the Harry Potter worlds. I desperately want to go.
I wish I could, but I have 2 wolves inside of me. One desperately wants to go. The other one is Moon. That's not true. One desperately wants to go. The other one desperately does not want to give money to the Universal Studios.
Fair enough. And so the goblin, Griphook, who we will meet him later, very, 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 very far in the future, but
spoiler alert,
he will be back, takes them to get money out of Harry's vault and also a secret item for Dumbledore that's in the vault in Gringotts. I wonder what it could be. Okay, so Harry gets his gold out of his account at Gringotts, and he is shooketh to find out he's a secretly wealthy boy. After that, they go and they're getting his school supplies. Harry immediately goes into wealthy boy mode and tries to get a solid gold cauldron, which I thought was hilarious.
Which I thought that is good for nothing because it's just gonna melt.
Exactly. I was very confused. I don't know why it was included except to maybe give some like character stuff to Harry. And then there's some foreshadowing which takes place when Harry sees a bunch of boys his age with their noses up against the window of a store that sells broomsticks. Then Harry goes to get his robes made for school, while Hagrid goes, I think either before or after this, he goes to get our favorite character, Hedwig, for Harry. But in Madame Malkin's, think I'm saying that right, hope I'm saying that right. I've only ever read that word. We get to meet someone who will be very important to the series, but much more important to the fandom around the series. Introducing Draco Malfoy, who is incredibly posh in the shop and explains that he doesn't like Muggleborns. Not with those words, but pretty much. Harry then leaves with Hagrid to get his wand, in what I think is probably the most important scene from this chapter, where he goes into Ollivander's, which has been in business since before the death of Christ.
Wow.
Yeah, quite a long time before. And goes to buy his wand. And he tries many wands, many wands, but they don't seem to work. And as Mr. Ollivander, the proprietor, says, the wand chooses the wizard. And eventually, Harry gets one, and it works. It chooses him. And that's very interesting because Ollivander notes and tells an 11-year-old boy, hey, the guy who murdered your parents had a wand that had the same core as that wand that you just bought. Well, interesting. Anyway, and then they're off. It is time to go home, unfortunately. They're in the underground. We get a scene of Hagrid, which is from J.K. Rowling's inspiration for him, which is a huge burly man knitting on the underground. And then, unfortunately, it's time for Harry to go home until Hogwarts starts. And Hagrid gives him his letter and says, well, not his letter, his ticket. And then it's like, yeah, well, we'll see you soon.
Yeah, that's quite a hefty chapter. A lot happens in this chapter. We get full exposure to the magical world for the first time ever. We meet all those wizards that we only had a glimpse of before. And this is where a lot of the magical world gets established. We get introductions to so many interesting, not personalities, but I would say archetypes or patterns of behavior.
I would agree with you. We have, I think, so the only real characters in this chapter in terms of like having personality is Harry, Hagrid, Draco, and Mr. Ollivander. I'm not going to give Quirrell a personality because his personality is being nervous.
Well, I actually think that this is kind of deliberate. So he's kind of like a wallflower.
I guess, yeah. But I would say the only people who we really learn things about are Draco and Mr. Ollivander. And Draco's introduces the main conflict of the series, which is there's this group of wizards who don't like muggles and don't like wizards who come from muggles.
Which, if we think about it after reading the whole series, is completely stupid because you either are a wizard or you aren't. It's not like it's not a spectrum.
I mean, I don't think it's meant to be intelligent like hatred never is. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that it's not a powerful force and something that's going to be determining a lot of different lives. I also like to think of Ollivander as kind of like a preview for what we're going to get with Dumbledore.
To me, Ollivander reads a little bit more like chaotic neutral.
Okay.
Because he does read as chaotic. Like he just gives out this weird information to Harry. What he's supposed to do with this information, I don't know. Who knows?
I suppose so. But I mean, in terms of you see someone, he's clearly at the top of his game. Hagrid says, you know, you have to have the best wand. And it's Ollivander. This is a family that's been doing this for centuries, millennia. And this is a man who remembers every wand he sold in great detail.
Which is admirable. Like, I can't remember what I ate this morning.
And can predict what students are going to come in based on their parents. It shows a high level of intelligence, but also someone who acts very differently than what we would prescribe as normal as readers coming into this. And it kind of sets up the stage for, okay, you're going to have characters who are clearly impressive, but they're different.
I like the line from the wand part of this chapter is that Harry wasn't sure if he liked Mr. Ollivander. So this is why I'm thinking he's like chaotic neutral, because you don't really know. Harry doesn't know how to feel about him. You also don't really know how to feel about him. He's so Switzerland. Like, what?
He just likes making wands.
Yeah, so he's like, I, for some reason, see him as someone like Luna Lovegood.
Okay, yeah, I can see that, yeah.
So highly intelligent, a little bit out of this world, very dedicated to a specific craft, mastered it, like top of the game, as you said. Kind of reads a little bit autistic, to be honest.
I mean,
on the spectrum, a little bit.
But like everything about the Wizarding World is so foreign to Harry at the first point that, you know, we don't know what Mr. Ollivander is like when he's not.
What he's in day-to-day life.
Yeah.
What I do like about this chapter is how it starts with Harry feeling utterly happy when he realizes that this was not a dream. And in fact, there is something magical that happened to him. Somebody came for him and he's special and there's something good that's waiting for him. I do like how his happiness is described. There was a balloon inside of him.
It is very sweet. We also get the best introduction of how wizard media works and never changes, which is the Daily Prophet. I believe only one of two media outlets that we learn about in the entirety of the series in the United Kingdom. We have the Daily Prophet and the magazine that...
The Quibbler. We'll also have Muggle Radio, not Muggle. We'll also have Wizard Radio. Because I remember vividly that Mrs. Weasley is listening to the Wizard Radio.
Okay, so we have three. So there's an owl who wants to be paid. Me too, girl. Me too. I understand.
Yep. Get your bag. Secure your bag.
We get a nice reference again to all the different stuff in Hagrid's pockets. There was one thing, though, that I just had to pause. There's slug pellets. Do you know what slug pellets are?
Well, they are like insecticides for slugs.
I can't imagine Hagrid killing a slug.
What you would think that, but actually don't. Which book was that in? But he was complaining that the slugs are eating his pumpkins.
Okay.
I don't remember
the third book, wouldn't it be?
Second or third. I'm not quite sure because I remember that in the second book, his roosters got killed off.
Oof. Okay.
Spoiler alert. So, and this is where Harry gets utterly bamboozled by the fact that wizards have banks.
Yep. To be fair, their money doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. But I will say money itself doesn't make a lot of sense if you really think about it.
As a concept, yes. Yes. Just like trickle-down economics.
What I thought was really interesting about this chapter is that it sets up a pattern of behavior with Harry that is both very him and very frustrating, where there is all this information about the Wizarding World and he desperately wants to ask but doesn't. And I think part of it, like if I'm giving it a character reason, I would cite again the line where Harry's like, Vernon had taught him that people don't like to be interrupted when they're reading the newspaper. So Harry only asks questions when there's an opportunity to ask questions. So when Hagrid mutters, the Ministry of Magic's messing things up as usual, then Harry can ask, there's a Ministry of Magic. And this will be like throughout the books where we're like, Harry, why haven't you figured this out yet? Why are we learning about this now? And I just want to speak in defense of people who are too nervous to be curious, you know? Maybe they're not as bookish as Hermione. The internet's not here. You can't just casually learn things.
The only stupid question is the one that you have not asked.
And, Harry doesn't ask a lot of questions, but it's not because he doesn't want to. He's just he's a kid who has been what we presume is regularly beaten for a while, or not physically abused and another way abused. It's not his fault if he doesn't ask every question possible. And also, if he did, then this podcast would be so long because I would be explaining why that's a bad world building thing.
Yeah?
Yeah. And we don't want that, do we?
There's one note that I left here when Hagrid was explaining Harry about Gringotts, how it's deep under the underground. And I was thinking, how deep under the underground is Gringotts? So I Googled how deep is the London Underground. And apparently the deepest station is 58.5 meters underground, which is a Hampstead station. And then I was like, those are rookie numbers because in my hometown of St. Petersburg, the average depth is 60 meters.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and you remember the station, the Admiraltейская station?
Yeah.
86 meters underground.
Okay.
The longest escalator in Europe. Yeah, so then we learned that there's a Ministry of Magic, and its main purpose is to keep from the Muggles that there's still witches and wizards up and down the country.
Is it? I feel like this is a question that I have wondered for a long time, but...
True.
For an answer right now, like if a kid asked me what the government is for, I would also give an answer. Not that we're here to make sure the other people don't know we exist, but I'm like, they do stuff.
To me, it does seem like this is actually like the main reason for the Ministry of Magic to be there. We can see that in many instances because all those departments, like the magical law enforcement, the misuse of Muggle artifacts, the Department of Mysteries, they are there in many ways to conceal the magic from the Muggles.
I guess my hesitancy to accept that as an answer is related to the fact that we don't really know how the wizarding world governs itself. Like, this society must have need for organization in itself, not simply just keeping away from the Muggles. But
maybe some wizarding lawyers.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Maybe some wizarding lawyers could be useful.
I mean, what is international relations? Because we know that the ministry is involved with the Quidditch World Cup.
And there is a Department of International Relations.
Yeah.
Yes, which employs a person who does not speak many languages, which I vividly remember from the fourth book, how it was...
I'm sorry, do you not understand that they speak English?
So the thing that I looked up was, the Statute of Secrecy as an international document was established in... Mm-hmm. And the British Ministry of Magic was established in 1707, which is 3 years after my hometown was established.
But okay, so we see that the Ministry of Magic emerged to deal with the issues of separating Muggle and wizarding lives. So I can see why this is the explanation for why is there a Ministry of Magic. I just say I'm sure it does other things as well.
Hagrid gives a very interesting explanation when Harry asks why the main job of the ministry is to keep it from the Muggles that there are witches and wizards. Mm-hmm. Hagrid says, blimey, Harry, everyone would be wanting magic solutions to their problems, which is, I don't think that this is the case. And the case is that actually Muggles with their advancing technology have bullied magical people into hiding. Because, witch trials.
Well, also, so we know from canon that almost no wizards actually were killed in the witch trials. And some of them...
Third book.
Yeah, some of them were just, they liked it so much that they pretended to be burned a bunch of time.
Yep.
But something that I think is interesting is, even if the wizards... okay, if we're taking this more seriously than it's intended to be taken, how would wizards and regular society even intertwine at this point? Because they've been separate for so long. And first I thought, well, clearly they want magic to do a magic war because, isn't the killing curse great? And I'm like, you know what you can give someone and they can like kill somebody with, and you need almost no training for, like a gun.
Like a gun.
And if only there was a way to like destroy entire nations. It's called a nuclear bomb. So I like kind of like the answer that like our technology itself has kind of bullied the wizards out, because I'm just like, I don't think that they would actually survive that long.
Well, we also know that technology doesn't do well with magic, and magic doesn't do well with technology, because technology does not work at Hogwarts. From which it feels like there is an implication that magic is superior, actually.
Sorry, side note, do you watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
No.
Oh, okay, well, for our listeners who might, the implication, you understand. Anyway, go back.
Yeah, so the implication is almost like, because technology cannot work in the presence of this much magic as there is in Hogwarts, that magic must be superior.
I mean, but like they're using technology with a very modern view to it. Essentially anything with electricity, they're describing as technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, where like technology, it's actually a really broad word. Like a broom, not to fly on, just to sweep, is technically technology.
Watches and clocks work.
Sorry, JK, I'm world building now. I think it's electricity that for some reason magic and electricity just do not work well together.
Or as Mr. Arthur Weasley says,
electricity.
Yep.
Yes.
And here is this just something that I could not just walk past. When Hagrid says, "Crikey, I'd like a dragon." I'm like, what are you channeling, Steve Irwin?
That would be fun. We also get this reference. How did he get here, Hagrid? He flew.
Yeah, I was like, how?
And then I was like, broom? Like, is he talking about flu powder? No, because he didn't go into a fireplace.
Yeah.
Is he trying to describe apparition without describing apparition? And I'm just going to put this into we'll never know.
Well, there are theories out there. So
there are theories.
There are theories,
never know.
but we'll never know. But they are theories. So like a broom cannot hold Hagrid, but a thestral can.
Okay. Oh yeah, we've talked about this before. But then it's just some thestral on an island off the coast, just chilling.
Oh, a thestral can go back.
I mean, I'm sure it can.
Yeah.
But like, that seems kind of mean. It's like riding a horse somewhere and then saying, okay, I'm going to take the train back. Horse, you know how to get home.
But they know how to get home.
I mean, I guess, but like, it's not very nice. It's not very nice.
Okay.
Anyway, so this was a side note. I just want all of our listeners to know that we have determined the price of galleon sickles and nuts in the modern day using a book that JK wrote for Comic Relief, where she...
Yeah. So fantastic beasts and where to find them. So we figured out the price of galleon to a dime.
Yeah.
The thing is, just we're not the first ones who did that.
We're not.
We're definitely not. So while I was doing my research about little tiny tidbits and details in this chapter, I found this very interesting website, which is called, what is it called? Hello? I think it's called Harry Potter Lexicon.
So I'll just continue while you're looking for this.
So it is called Harry Potter Lexicon.
Okay, so this is the reason why I brought this up. I wanted to know how much a copy of the Daily Prophet cost.
Okay, so 5 nuts.
Oh, okay, so I was listening to the audio version. It's knuts.
Knuts, 5 knuts.
Knuts. And so based on this book that J.K. Rowling wrote for Comic Relief, we've established that in today's value, a galleon is around $13.
Yeah, $13.6 US.
Yeah, so $13.60. So then there's 17 sickles in a gallon, and there's 29 nuts in a sickle.
Yes.
So if my math is correct, only a medium chance of that being okay. A copy of the newspaper costs like 3 cents.
Okay.
I mean, I guess they don't have inflation because they're backed by the gold standard, literally.
We have calculated it all, taking into consideration the inflation. In 2001, when Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them was released, the cost of galleon was 7.3 USD.
So we have taken in inflation from the Muggle currency.
From the Muggle currency, yes.
But we have operated on the assumption that there isn't inflation in the wizarding world. And that's why I think it's appropriate that it's 3 cents for a newspaper.
I guess. Well, do wizards really have the same cost of living? That's a big question.
I mean, if only there was like a government body in the wizarding world that monitored this, but they only have one that's sole existence is to keep wizard existence away from muggles.
We'll never know.
Yeah, we'll never know. But I just thought it was really fun. I'm like, oh, 3 cents for a newspaper. Got it. Okay. Money doesn't make sense in the real world, and it doesn't make sense here either. So let's go.
We're consistent.
We are consistent. We also get the first introduction in this chapter to a magical species which is not human, and that is goblins.
Wow.
And they're interesting because, I want to actually reframe this and be very honest. We are introduced to other magical species in this book, but they are the type of magical species you get to cut apart and sell their body parts for. Like dragons, we see that both their liver and heartstring are used in wizarding products. Unicorn, what's it called? The horns? The horns.
Unicorn horns and unicorn hair.
Yeah. And phoenix feathers. Now, obviously, I want to clarify, we know from the unicorn class that Professor Grubbly Plank runs that you can take the horn,
they shed it.
They shed.
So basically both horn and hair, they shed.
Yeah. So the only creature that we know is getting killed for their magical stuff is the dragons in this chapter. But essentially, even though the other ones aren't getting killed, they're being treated like we do livestock or other sort of farm animal, you know?
I wonder what the people who hold phoenixes do. It's like, how what's it like? How's that? So like, because we know that phoenixes just essentially don't die.
Yeah, you'd have to make a will multiple, like a phoenix that's been alive for a long time has been passed through a lot of different wills.
Yeah. But I mean, in terms of like feather collection and then the cycle of the so like, does the phoenix give one feather per cycle or just per bird?
Well, we know that at least one gave 2 feathers.
Yes, but this is very unusual.
Yeah. So we don't know.
We don't know. But I want to circle back.
Circle back.
Circle
Are
back.
you corporate speaking to me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's circle back. Let's put it in the
put a pin in this right now.
Put a pin in this right now. Yes. Harry is double checking his letter from Hogwarts to check all the supplies that he's going to need. The supplies include 3 sets of plain work robes black and 1 plain pointed hat black for day wear. A hat that appears in the movies once and never again.
I mean, does it ever appear in the books again?
We'll
find out.
There's no use to it. It's like, I don't think that there's ever a hat ever again.
No, I think this is a reference to the Merlin idea that wizards wear pointy hats. Yeah.
I think so. And also I am holding your copy of the book that has a misprint where in the other equipment, 1 wand is repeated 2 times.
Oh my God, listeners. I was like, oh my God, do I accidentally have a first edition of Harry Potter? Because I know that in first editions, this is the misprint. But no, I don't. Mine was printed in 2000 and the first run was from 1997. I was very sad about that.
And yours is printed in Canada too. So yeah. And then students may also bring an owl or a cat or a toad. No rats.
Scabbers was not allowed.
It was illegal. Parents are reminded that first years are not allowed their own broomsticks.
Unless you're Harry Potter. Spoiler alert.
But he doesn't have parents.
That's true, yeah. The parents weren't there to stop him. I want to so we've talked a bit about the government. I want to make one more reference to it. The only thing I think we ever learn about how ministers for magic are actually chosen. The Ministry of Magic wanted Dumbledore for the job, so old Cornelius Fudge got the job. And Hagrid does not think highly of Cornelius Fudge, and to be frank, neither do I. But what I think is hilarious is look, we're going to do this reread. We'll get more into the details, but I don't think there's a democracy in Wizard Land, which makes sense because when they left Muggle Land, the House of Lords and Parliament were technically a thing, but not in the way that we think about it today. So I don't think there's democracy, but I do wonder who actually chooses the Minister of Magic. We'll look into that later. There's more interesting things in this chapter.
Oh, there is.
So there's dragons at Gringotts. And you mentioned the great line, "Crikey, I'd like a dragon." I think it's really interesting because, like, okay, today and nowadays, there's a lot of media about dragon, particularly a lot of fantasy media. What I really like that Harry Potter does is they don't pretend that dragons are like this thing that humans can get power from or that you can ride. They're like, no, they're very dangerous.
And there's so many subspecies.
Yeah. So that is fun. And this will come back again in the 4th and 7th book. Oh, and
this book too.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, and this book. Dragons have a very large role in this story, but we don't actually learn that much about them. We also get the first reference of some books that will become important later. A History of Magic by Bathilda Bagshot.
One and only.
And The Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them by Newt Scamander.
Yay, here I'm holding it. I want to note one thing. So, I don't know, does Scamander mean anything in English? Does it remind you of anything?
No.
In Russian, they have translated Scamander, not translated, changed Scamander into Salamander. Mm-hmm. Just to maybe make it a little bit more animal-y.
I like that. Yeah. So then we are at the Leaky Cauldron. So I was like 20 years old before I realized that pub was short for public house.
I never knew that.
Yeah. Oh, wow. This is the first time. Okay.
This is the first time for me. It's like the things I learn while doing podcast.
So it is interesting that this is a pub and Harry's just like, okay, yeah, I'll go into a pub. And it reminds me that in Europe, more broadly, like you can just bring your kids into places that in North America, we'd call them like a bar, and they're not for kids, but they are in Europe. So and that was interesting. I remember being in the Czech Republic and there was like a family with like their baby at the bar.
That's Eastern Europe for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's Central Europe.
That's Slav.
Okay. I think if we have any listeners in the Czech Republic.
We do, because we are number 145 in books in Czech Republic. What the helly?
I really appreciate our Czech Republic listeners.
Thank you, Czech Republic. I don't know what you're doing there, that you found our podcast that we do not promote anywhere.
I think it's great. My nanny was from the Czech Republic growing up. Regina. Shout out Regina. She was amazing.
Maybe that's her?
No, she's in Canada still.
Oh.
Yeah. Maybe it's her family. Hi, Regina's family.
So yeah, Czech Republic. Yeah. Thank you.
It was great. The beer was so cheap and good, and everything was pleasant. I really like the Czech Republic. But so anyway, everyone in the bar immediately knows Hagrid, a great reference to Hagrid's ongoing alcoholism.
And Tom saying, your usual.
Mm-hmm. Which I wonder what his usual is.
Now I wonder that too.
Yeah, because like Hagrid's a hefty fellow, you know, he's half giant, so he can't just have like a little pint.
No, it has to be a big pint.
Oh, something really interesting. Okay, so I was wondering why the wands are in inches, given that this isn't freedom land, okay? They don't use freedom units in the United Kingdom. They use the metric system. The answer was given to me quite quickly, whereas the metric system came in like the middle of the 20th century or a bit later. So it makes sense that Ollivanders, who is a business that has existed from like 300 BC, doesn't use the metric system. I understand.
Makes sense.
But something that I thought was hilarious is there's a few exceptions in the law where you can have non-metric measurements without the accompanying metric one. And one of them is pints. They're just like, no, we don't need to explain to people what a
pint is a pint.
A pint is a pint is a pint.
And here with the first conversation with Tom, the bartender, I found this very interesting. We have, I think, one and only instance of reference to God, because he says, good Lord, which isn't that what religious people say?
I believe so.
And then also bless my soul. I don't think that there are any other instances of even remotely
I don't believe so.
anything even remotely religious in the books.
I mean, there is the concept of the soul, which is inherently a religious concept, as much as it's been almost secularized in modern conversation and society. But also, I mean, we don't know what wizard religion is, you know? I think...
Merlin?
Well, we've talked about it previously, but Merlin is kind of used, you know, differently. It's kind of used as a replacement for like, Jesus Christ, what are you doing?
But in the next chapter, we'll learn that Morgana is a canon in there. So Merlin must be canon as well.
Yes, and this will go back into the history of the Wizarding World. I would really like to know, but J.K. Rowling won't write for me.
J.K.
Come on, you have all this time to be on Twitter, like hating on people. Couldn't you be writing? Thank you. There's one line here that I really like where Tom goes to Harry and says, "Welcome back, Mr. Potter, welcome back."
Yeah, I do. I loved that. In the movie, I loved that.
Because at first it was like, welcome back. He's a kid. He's never been to the Leaky Cauldron. And I'm like, he's welcoming him back to the Wizarding World.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that was sweet. And then Harry doesn't know what to do with fame. And this is like, you know, as much criticism as Dumbledore rightly gets for leaving Harry with the Dursleys. I'm like, not with the Dursleys, but he was 100% right to not be left in the Wizarding World. It is also interesting because this was written before J.K. Rowling was anybody. And the way that she describes people reacting to somebody famous seems very much like how a non-famous person would think about it. And it's not wrong per se. Like they're like, he remembers me. Did you hear that? He remembers me. When Harry's like, oh, I've met you before. Taking it way out of proportion. And I don't know, maybe I'm being a bit too critical here, but it just didn't seem like the way that... I feel like if she was writing it now, that she's someone of note, maybe before her controversies, she would be able to write this in a more nuanced way.
I guess. Yeah, I guess you're right here.
It's not bad or anything. Like, it gets the message across. And I'm sure there's people who react this silly around famous people. But anyway, then we are going to... Oh, yeah. Sorry.
We're meeting Professor Quirrell.
I forgot about Professor Quirrell. Everyone forgets about Professor Quirrell.
Because he's such a wallflower.
Yeah.
But we are meeting Professor Quirrell, who Hagrid says is going to be one of Harry's teachers at Hogwarts. And he stutters and he shakes Harry's hand and has no turban, which means that Voldy isn't there yet. Not inside his head.
Yeah. And also Harry doesn't have his pain and his scar. So that's another thing. Although, I mean, how accurate that is, we'll talk about that later. Because Harry went to class with Quirrell for a long time without getting pain in his scar. I thought this was a great line that fits Quirrell into an idea of an academic, which unfortunately I find to be relatively accurate. Oh yeah, poor bloke, brilliant mind. He was fine while he was studying out of books, but then he took a year off to get some first-hand experience. They say he met vampires in the Black Forest and there was a nasty bit of trouble with a hag. Never been the same since. Scared of students, scared of his own subject. Now, where's me umbrella? This is, okay, so listeners, something that you have to know about me is when I was a kid, I went to summer camp in the United Kingdom. And they brought in like people to talk to us because it was like an academic summer camp. And one of the guys,
Fancy.
Yes, I went to a fancy summer camp. And one of the guys who came to talk to us was at the time, I don't know if he still is, but he was like the world expert in one specific type of orangutan. Again, I can't remember it. I cannot remember if there's subspecies. But one of the things that was interesting, so he had a degree, it was like a double degree in anthropology and then also like actual animal science. And a lot of other people at his university were like doing things like closer to home. And he found this like one ancient professor and he's like, I want to go to, I'm going to say it wrong, I think it was Indonesia, to study my orangutans. Will you sponsor my research? And this guy was like, oh, we used to do that before they got, too careful with students' well-being. Yeah, of course. I'll sponsor that. And so this guy lived in Indonesia, like in the jungle for a year. And he had pictures of like the different parasites that began to like live on his feet. And he named them after a while. Yeah, like he went hardcore. He really cared about this.
Ew.
It was really interesting. He also always knew where Britney Spears was in the world because he wanted to know she was okay.
Okay.
Yeah, he's gay. He was gay.
That's not where I was going, but well, good for checking on Britney because free Britney.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he preempted. He's like, and as a gay man, I always like to know where Brittany is in the world because he was showing us on a map where he did his research. And he's like, and this is where Brittany is in Las Vegas.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was sweet. But when I think of Professor Quirrell, I think of this guy and how Professor Quirrell did what this guy did, but had the exact opposite reaction where the moment he went into the field, he was just like, nope, mistake. That was a mistake.
Mistakes are meant to be made.
It's also interesting, like, why Quirrell is the teacher, because we get an implication from this passage that he's been teacher for, like, more than 1 year. This is not his first year. And because he's scared of his students now.
Yeah.
He's never been the same. And it's surprising to me that we're only, like, 10 years out of a very significant war against the dark magic, the dark arts, that there's no, like, person who had even just like a tertiary like fighting role who could step into this. They're like, no, you know what we're gonna get? A new graduate who has only spent 1 year doing actual field research. He's gonna teach defense against the dark arts.
Yeah, let's rock.
So I thought that was funny. I don't know like the thinking behind him as a character. I think I'll have a better grasp of him when we're done our reread and be able to have a more nuanced view. But I immediately saw him and I thought, oh, you went to a posh British school and were not prepared for the brutality of the German forest.
I think that the scene with Quirrell holding an iguana in the movie is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Why?
I don't know. What did iguanas do?
I don't know. Why an iguana? Mm-hmm. Also, this wasn't supposed to be Quirrell's class.
So then we're going into Diagon Alley, and we have the line that, like, I so clearly remember when I was reading this and I read it again. I'm like, I remember reading this the first time, which was 20 years ago now. So that's a big, I'm very impressed with myself. Harry wished he had about 8 more eyes. And, like, I feel that, like, whenever I've gone somewhere, like, really interesting and I'm trying to look at everything, that, to me, is very relatable. And then we have another line, which I was in my mind. Dragon liver, 17 sickles an ounce. They're mad.
Which is just 1 galleon.
I know, which is like $13 US.
One must assume that a dragon liver is quite a big organ.
We presume as such, but like how many dragons are being killed?
I actually have no idea. So, like, how many heartstrings can you get from a dragon?
I mean,
how many dragon hide gloves can you make out of a dragon hide?
Exactly. And, like, because we're thinking, like, big, massive dragons, but what if they're like, oh, no, the best dragon leather comes from little baby dragons, you know? Like a veal-type situation.
I don't want to think about that,
Well,
dude.
that's going to be my takeaway from... I have, like, another thing to bring up from this chapter where about, like, magical creatures and how they're treated. But something that I was also thinking, what are you using dragon liver for? My first reaction is, oh, like a ingredient in a potion, obviously.
Well, yeah, because it's an apothecary.
Apothecary.
Apoteka.
Apoteka is apothecary in Russian. So in Canada, we call them like drugstores.
That
small
concept,
general stores that also sell drugs. That concept
for me was wild when I came here. You remember that?
I do. Yeah. I also remember when I went to Russia and I was just like, oh, I just need to go to a drugstore. And I like put into my phone the translation for drugstore. And it took me to an actual like
pharmacy.
A pharmacy. And I'm like, I'm so confused. I just need like a general store, guys.
It's not how it works in Russia.
But so I don't know what like a wizarding apothecary is. One would presume it's for magical purposes, but then I'm also wondering like, what if they eat it?
So what?
Like, why? I don't know. This seems okay. So listeners, just so you know, I'm a vegetarian, and for like the next 2 minutes or so, I'm going to talk about animals and stuff. So if you are like, no, I don't want to hear about vegetarian nonsense, just turn off for a bit. But like a dragon, I feel is like, why would you kill a dragon just to eat its liver?
I feel like if it is made into food, that it is a byproduct, because I feel like there is dragon blood that is a magical ingredient. There's dragon heartstring, dragon skin, dragon presumed like talons or something. So well, so many things.
Like in the store, when they go into the apothecary, they don't mention dragon talons specifically, but there is animal claws just hanging about. and things like that. So it brings up like this idea of like there's certain magical creatures which are livestock type magical creatures, and certain magical creatures which are not, but aren't wizards, like goblins and centaurs and that sort of thing. And
that is actually brought up in the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
the book, not the film.
The
just
book,
to
not the
clarify.
film. Yeah, the book, this little tiny book that I actually have quite a pretty big version of. So there is the Ministry of Magic classification of beasts. So there is a chapter, it's called What is a Beast? So there was a time when the Ministry of Magic, Wizards Council, was trying to decide which of the magical creatures classify as beasts and which classify as sentient. Mm-hmm. So, and that was a whole, it was a mess. It was a mess. So we're all aware that centaurs have refused being status and requested to remain beasts. Well, because they're sentient and they can do that.
Yeah.
So at some point, the requirement was that a being, a sentient being has to be able to communicate clearly, just to state its will. At some point, it was the number of feet. It's just of how, yeah. So it was, and it is still an ongoing issue.
Yeah, and we see that especially in the 5th book. But I guess my, like, why I feel this is so cold is because I'm like, if you, like, I don't know, like people who like raise livestock and things like that, like credit to them, they have a way of looking at the world that like my bleeding heart could never do. But I'm just like, so you're raising this dragon and like, yeah, the dragon is an animal, but like you're getting it big enough and then you're just like killing it and sending it off for parts, heartstrings to the wand maker's liver to the apothecary, all this sort of stuff. And I don't know. I just found it very sad. Anyway. Let's move on from my bleeding heart vegetarianism.
Let's move on to owls.
Owls.
And broomsticks.
I like, when I was reading it and I read the sign that said, Ilops Owls Emporium, Tawny, Screech, Barn, Brown, and Snowy. I'm like, I know who Hedwig is going to be. And I was so happy about that. And then we get our first reference to the new Nimbus 2000, faster than ever. Fastest ever.
I'm questioning, why is it 2000? It's 1991 at this point. Why are you naming a model 2000?
Maybe it's the 2000th model, because we think about it. The only other broom model that I know off the top of my head is the Nimbus 2001.
There's also Clean Sweeper, which I think there's a Clean Sweeper 5. Both Fred and George have Clean Sweeper 5.
There are different companies that make different models, but they don't use the like car system of being like, it's the Chevy Silverado and like giving it a name. They're like, no, it has a name. And then we just keep adding one for every model that comes up.
So do you think there was 2000 Nimbuses before that?
There has to be. Like if I'm being realistic, like from a writing perspective, the Nimbus 2001 introduction in book 2, I find hilarious.
Yeah.
Where it's like Draco being like, I don't have a Nimbus 2000. I have a Nimbus 2001.
Literally one up you.
Yeah, literally. So I find it hilarious for that bit. So then next we go into Gringotts. And Gringotts is like the first like properly fancy building that we see. And I do want to say, I appreciate that J.K. Rowling didn't make the wizarding world inherently posh. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not that everybody is suddenly fabulously wealthy and everything is perfect. Like, the Leaky Cauldron is shabby and like the
grubby looking.
Yeah, the apothecary smells bad.
As I think it should.
I will disagree with you on that, but we're not there yet. So then we go into a bank, and a bank is properly fancy. And there is a little poem for us.
A little paragraph.
Enter strangers, but take heed of what awaits the sin of greed. For those who take but do not earn must pay dearly in their turn. So if you seek beneath our floors a treasure that was never yours, thief, you have been warned, beware of finding more than treasure there.
And I have a little note here that says, Harry's gonna do it.
It'll take 7 books, but Harry's gonna do it. Do you know about the CIA headquarters at Langley?
No.
Okay. So at the CIA headquarters, there is a Bible quote, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
So do those remind you of each other?
Yeah, they do.
I see.
Even though, because like that one is, I mean, if you know anything about the history of the CIA, they're not interested in the truth, but they just remind me of each other. Even though like the vibe is different, theirs is kind of ominous and not really related to what they do. And this is very explicitly like, do not steal or else things will go poorly for you. But they both remind me of each other.
I can kind of see that, yeah. But yeah, so Gringotts is properly fancy. The goblins are wearing scarlet and gold uniforms. So it kind of, I don't know why, but I kind of imagine this, what's it called? The hotel busboys or what was men? The hotel doormen.
I had a similar idea, except they don't seem to open doors.
Yeah.
Although they do bow to the people when they walk inside, which, given what we know about how goblins feel about wizards, I get the impression that this job is probably for the goblins that are not
the best at what they're doing.
Not popular with their friends.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, but so the first there's bronze doors and then there's silver doors that they go through, and this building towers above all the others in Diagon Alley. And then they were in a vast marble hall. About 100 more goblins were sitting on high stools behind a long counter, scribbling in large ledgers, weighing coins on brass scales, examining precious stones through eyeglasses. There were too many doors to count leading off the hall, and yet more goblins were showing people in and out of these. I will say that the movie adaptation really did Gringotts. I mean, as much as like a movie can do justice to a fantastical world, I think they did it very well. It very much... It didn't have the doors out front with the doormen, but it very much gave me the vibe on the inside of all the goblins, you know, counting coins. And then, so they go and they're come to take money out of Mr. Potter's safe, not his account, his safe. And the safe has a key.
Which Hagrid has. Mm-hmm. Who had the Potter's safe key before it was given to Hagrid?
I don't know, but also, do you remember when Harry gets it? Because I remember in the second book, and we'll get there, like he gets money out of his safe.
Yeah.
But when does he get the key?
I don't think he ever does that.
Yeah.
On page.
So the key was given to a 12-year-old.
Because why not?
Why not? You
know? He can't go to London.
And in Hagrid's very sneaky way, he says, I've also got something else I got to take out. It's about you know what. Which like... Wouldn't that just be like on the letter from Dumbledore that he gives to the goblins?
Maybe.
I will say that J.K. Rowling gives us an explanation for this where, and I've got a letter here from Professor Dumbledore, said Hagrid, importantly, throwing out his chest. So yeah, he's showing off, he's peacocking. And then Griphook is going to take them down to the vaults. Griphook, will we miss you in the future? We're looking forward to you.
Yep.
And then Harry asks the obvious question, what's the you-know-what in the vault? And Hagrid's in his, can't tell you that.
Shouldn't have said that.
Shouldn't have said that. So then they go on the roller coaster ride in the vault. In
the little cart.
In the cart, which steers itself. And then what I think is a great joke, but other people hate, where Harry sees an underground lake with huge stalactites and stalagmites growing from the ceiling and the floor. And then he goes, I never know, Harry called to Hagrid over the noise of the cart. What's the difference between a stalagmite and a stalactite? Stalagmite's got an M in it, said Hagrid.
Stalagmite and stalactite.
You know how long it's been since I learned this, but I had learned this in school literally like the day before I read this book the first time.
Okay.
So it was hilarious to me.
So stalagmite's got an M in it. Now we know how to distinguish them from each other.
We do. We also are now in Harry's vault, which A+ for drama. After Griphook unlocked the door, green smoke came billowing out.
I guess that was supposed to be some kind of a protective charm or something.
Maybe, yeah. But we also know now that Harry is rich.
So the Dursleys couldn't have known about the money, or they have had it from him faster than blinking. How often had they complained how much Harry cost them to keep? Which, I know that children aren't cheap, but realistically, how much money do they spend on him?
I don't think a lot. I think their biggest expense will probably be the childcare that they force him into because they don't want to look after him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Also, this was like the 90s. How much did it cost to have a kid in the 90s, you know?
I don't know. I was the kid that was head in the 90s.
Yes. So then they go to the very mysterious vault with the very mysterious package, which we find out that only a goblin can get into. And they only check to
About
see if,
once every 10 years
to see if a human got trapped in the trap. And then Hagrid grabs the little, it's a little package wrapped up in brown paper on the floor. This will be the, okay, so this is like unrelated, but so I watched the new Naked Gun movie with my dad like a couple months ago. Do you know what the Naked Gun movies are? For our listeners, they're a satirical movie series from the late 80s and early 90s, which they did a reboot of. And I don't hate reboots the way that like people usually do, because like all stories are derivative of each other. And I think you can have value in telling a new chapter of that sort of thing. But I do understand that from if you're someone who likes movies and wants to see new interesting movies, the amount of reboots can be frustrating. But what was hilarious is the thing that they're trying to get away from the bad guy in the new Naked Gun movie is literally like a breviature. So it's a PLOT device.
Oh, okay.
It's a plot device.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think another word for this would be MacGuffin.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so this is the MacGuffin or plot device that will be very important in this book, but we don't actually ever see used or what it does.
Well done.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
So then they're back to out of Gringotts, and it's time for Harry to go to Madame Malkin's robes for all occasions.
Oh, wait. It's like, I do really, really, really like this sentence here. Harry didn't know where to run first now that he had a bag full of money. I know this feeling so well because, for context, as a child, I wasn't given money, pocket money, like almost never. Mm-hmm. So as an adult who makes her own money, whenever I get a big sum of money, so in Russian we say it's burning my pocket.
Oh, yeah, we have a similar thing. It's burning a hole in my pocket.
Yeah, so like usually a big sum of money is burning my pocket. It's waiting to be spent. So I know that feeling so well.
It reminded me of a time I got $100 to go to Toys R Us. I don't know if you know what Toys R Us is.
I know.
Okay, yeah. R.I.P. Toys R Us. It's long gone.
Yeah.
But that was to me like the most magical feeling ever, where I'm like, $100
for me
at Toys R Us with no restrictions. And I'm like, oh my God. I remember though, I brought my brother on this trip and he didn't have $100 and he did not have a good time, and that made it even better.
Oh my God. It's your and your sibling rivalry. I will never understand it because I don't have any siblings. So yeah.
Yes. You're special. You were an only child.
Am I special? I guess. Am I the drama? I don't think I'm the drama.
I really like that everyone at Hogwarts gets their robes apparently custom cut for them.
Which is cool. Because unless you're getting hand-me-downs, which I don't think that they're getting tailored. But yes, Hagrid sends Harry to Madame Malkin's robes for all occasions and goes off to the Leaky Cauldron for a pick-me-up. It's another instance of...
Hagrid's maybe drinking a little too much.
A little too much, especially on such a responsible task.
And we are introduced to another boy waiting there. And he is a caricature of upper-class British people. But I think I will say, like, Draco really, as all the characters do, gets more fleshed out. And I actually think this is a really well-written interaction because it tells us everything we need to know about what the problem is going to be in the books going forward, and also how we in the real world relate to this magical issue. Because something that I find interesting is like when books are trying to find like a reason, the big war, the big conflict, the thing that's going to happen. And whenever magic is involved, people try to like give it something a bit more nuanced than some people want the world a certain way and other people want it differently. And like, look, not all books, okay? Some books do really interesting things, that sort of thing. But in just like one page, we learn really succinctly what prejudice looks like in the wizarding world and how it's going to affect. So do you mind if I read this out?
Go ahead, please.
Hello, said the boy. Hogwarts too? Yes, said Harry. My father's next door buying my books and my mother's up the street looking at wands, said the boy. He had a bored, drawling voice. Then I'm going to drag them off to look at racing brooms. I don't see why first years can't have their own. I think I'll bully father into getting me one and I'll smuggle it in somehow. Harry was reminded strongly of Dudley. So that's how we first meet Draco, and what we were shown immediately is like, oh, he's spoiled.
The interesting thing is, I have highlighted it here. So he's going to bully his father into getting him a racing broom. But in the Russian version, it is, they use the word convince. So apparently in Russian language, you can't bully a parent.
Interesting. And I think that's a very important choice of words, because what Draco does is a childish bullying version of what his parents did, which is just horrible murder and
crimes,
yeah. So we also see that Draco is a daddy's boy, where he's describing just this one line where he says, I have a broom. He's like, I do. Father says it's a crime if I'm not picked to play for my house. And I must say, I agree. And then they talk about the houses for a bit, and we learn that everyone in Draco's house has been in Slytherin, and also he thinks Hufflepuff is ridiculous. And then we see how he reacts to Hagrid. And this is very telling, where he's like, oh, I've heard of him. He's a sort of servant, isn't he? And like, that's a very loaded word.
Yeah.
It's a very, I think.
He's help.
He's help, yeah. He's not a regular person. He's the help. And then he's a sort of savage, lives in a hut on the school grounds, and every now and then he gets drunk, tries to do magic, and ends up setting fire into his bed. And the next line is kind of why I fall in love with Harry, because he just says immediately, I think he's brilliant, Harry said coldly. Now, we've never had any other inclination so far that Harry feels about Hagrid this way. And from what we know about Hagrid, it is possible that he got drunk, tried to do magic, and ended up setting fire to his bed.
Yeah.
But Harry can tell right away that this boy is being cruel, like for no reason. Yeah. And he immediately stands up. And
he has instincts to say and stand up for what's right.
Then we get the mention of Harry's parents that are dead. And Draco has this line where he says, oh, sorry, not sounding sorry at all. And I'm like, oh, yeah. But they were our kind, weren't they? And here we learn that some wizards think that Muggleborns should not be allowed into wizarding society because they're just not the same. They've never been brought up to know our ways. And it's these like, so something that I like, people who know me know that I like learning, and I like learning about things that are odd. But one of the reasons as to why Harvard not banned, but greatly reduced the amount of Jewish students who were allowed to go to Harvard in the 20s and 30s, because it was this moment where a lot of them got accepted. And then people were like, they don't really know our ways, and they don't assimilate well to our ways. So we have to reduce the amounts of them so that they assimilate. And so in this moment, you see that even without being a criminal yet, Draco has already been taught that there's many reasons as to why he should hate Muggleborns. And it's giving you 100 reasons that seem vaguely, that have like the veneer of rationality on them to justify something that's inherently just cruel and hateful. And then Harry leaves this conversation, and he's not sorry for an excuse to stop talking to the boy. And then he goes to Hagrid, who has ice cream for him. And I really like that J.K. Rowling included, it was chocolate and raspberry with chopped nuts.
Yum.
So this conversation with Draco, and we don't know he's Draco yet, but we will know.
But it does leave Harry pretty upset.
Yeah. So we immediately know who Harry is, because based on his reaction to this, where he doesn't think people are bad just because they're different. And also something like that I feel, okay, so I want to caveat, a lot of like the fan reaction to Draco in the years since the books and the movies has been like, I can fix him.
Classic.
Yeah, and like, oh, he's not that bad. And like everything that I remember about him, with the exception of the last book, a couple things he does. Like, he's just not a redeemable character. You know, he doesn't really change his ways, except for, again, at that very last minute. But in this moment, when he's like an 11-year-old boy, I'm like, oh, you're not saying anything you believe in. You're saying what your parents have told you. So, like, I used to be a nanny for kids and love kids. Kids are great. But something you, like, realize is kids absorb a lot more of what's going on around them than people give them credit for. And, like, I could just tell, like, when the kids I was looking after had spent, like, you know, a certain amount of time with, like, one of their friends or a new teacher, things like that, like, their behavior changed, their words changed. They were starting to, like, parrot the new ideas. And in this moment, I just want to be like, you're 11 years old, Draco. You don't have to be like this for the rest of your life. Like, I don't hate this kid because he's 11 and he's clearly just parroting what his parents told him. I think when I really start to hate him comes in, like, the 6th book. Because at that point, he's 16 years old and he really commits hard to... Yeah.
He makes decisions.
Yeah. Before that, he's just being, to use a British word, a prat.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion on why I think this interaction is important. Do you have any views on it?
I think you summed it up pretty well.
And then we have a really sweet moment with Hagrid where he says, you know, he first says, well, look, you're Harry, you're not from a Muggle family. But then he puts the next line, which I think is perfect. Anyway, what does he know about it? Some of the best I ever saw were the only ones with magic in them from a long line of Muggles. Look at your mum. And that's, Hagrid has such a good heart.
Totally agree.
And he doesn't have the, like, I think it's interesting because, like, Draco was coded as being, like, of the upper class and having the aesthetics of the upper class, and Hagrid is coded as having the aesthetics of the lower class. And just immediately, J.K. Rowling shows who they are outside of what they're coded. Then we get explained what Quidditch is. Not really, but just that it's a sport. And we're going to have to put a pin in that.
And then we learn about the Hogwarts houses. So
we learn about 2 of them.
Couple of them, yeah.
Yeah. We learn that Slytherins are bad and people don't like Hufflepuffs. Do you know what duffers mean? Sorry, listeners. Hagrid describes Hufflepuff as a lot of duffers. And I'm like, I just presume that meant, like, you know, like the leftovers, which, like, the Sorting Hat even in her song talks about that.
But I don't know what exactly this word means.
If we have any British listeners, sorry, Czech Republic listeners, you as well, if you know, like, what does this mean? We would love to know. I think also this, I can't remember if it's, because Harry only sees 2 of the sorting songs, this book and the 4th book.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it's this one or the 4th one where Helga Hufflepuff says, I'll take the rest. So, like, Hufflepuff is kind of coded as being, like, the extra house. I think Cedric Diggory is introduced to kind of counter that. Because you see him having a lot of the attributes of that we would associate with other houses. Like, he's ambitious. Well, that's a Slytherin attribute. He's brave. That's a Gryffindor attribute. He's smart. That's a Ravenclaw attribute. But
I also think that he is not amped up. He's not those qualities amped up because ambitious but not cunning.
Yeah.
Brave but not reckless. And smart but not too scholarly.
Yeah. He's and his biggest thing is he's hardworking.
And he's loyal.
Yeah. And I think that character is kind of introduced to, like, give Hufflepuff a better light because it's not treated kindly immediately. And then we also get the association of Slytherin with bad wizards, so that never really gets broken, I think, until, again, Slughorn comes in.
Yeah.
We see a gentler version of, again, ambition.
Yep. I guess his ambition is, like, it just takes a little bit of a less chaotic outlet.
Yeah, he wants to do well and be connected in his world.
He's just doing networking.
Yeah.
It's just like connections. But then we also learn that, sorry, you know who was at Hogwarts? And there's a little note here because Harry asks Hagrid, you know who was at Hogwarts? And, like, yeah, with you, Hagrid. With you.
I'm sure Hagrid doesn't want to remember that. Then we go to a bookstore, which Flourish and Blots, and I really like the description of the books. Books the size of postage stamps in covers of silk, books full of peculiar symbols, and a few books with nothing in them at all. It really gives off the vibe of like, this is a magic bookstore.
Yep, I like that. Even Dudley, who never read anything, would have been wild to get his hands on some of these.
And then with J.K. Rowling's, I think like almost Russian style naming, the book for curses and counter curses to essentially bewitch your friends and befuddle your enemies is written by Professor Vindictus
Viridian.
Yeah.
And is it's a shade of green. So I think that the green with envy is such a
It's a phrase.
It's a phrase, right?
A saying, yes.
It's a saying. And then Vindictus, we all know.
Yeah, vindictive.
Vindictive, so I guess.
So listeners, just for reference, I was talking about Crime and Punishment, where the main name of the character, if you understand Russian, immediately gives away who he is and what he's going to do.
Yep.
Yeah. So then we go into the apothecary, and that is fascinating and smells horrible. But yeah, here we go. Bundles of feathers, strings of fangs, and snarled claws hung from the ceiling. I like that the unicorn horns are, in my mind, appropriately priced at 21 gallons each.
That's a good price. But also, like, unicorn horns are one of those things that are ethically sourced.
Yeah.
You would think of it as ethically sourced because they're shed. You can't otherwise get it because you can't kill a unicorn without being cursed.
So because I like math and also I like money, a unicorn horn costs $85 US dollars and 60 cents in today's US dollar. Yeah. And then Hagrid's going to get Harry a birthday present.
Yay.
Yeah.
As if the cake wasn't enough, which apparently it wasn't.
And again, Hagrid has such a good heart where he's like, I'm not going to get you a toad. They went out of fashion years ago. And he knows because
Neville.
He's around with the students. I don't like cats. They make me sneeze. Look, I don't appreciate the I don't like cats portion, but I understand if you're allergic to cats, you don't want to be around them.
But not liking? No.
And he's going to get him an owl.
Yay, because it's useful.
I also like that, like, there's no reference of, like, training owls. They just know how to send letters.
Well, they're like, there is innate magic to owls that they know at any time where any wizard is unless they put a spell on themselves that they can't be located by an owl. So, yep.
And then we are at Ollivander's. So we have the actual date. They're actually closer because they're makers of fine wands since 382 BC. They were established closer to 400 years before the birth or death of Christ. Yeah.
So maybe before that, they weren't just making wands that fine.
That's true. Maybe they were just average
wands. Just like meh wands.
They were in because this is like the Roman Empire time, like the old, not the Empire, sorry, like the Republic.
Yeah.
This is old Roman Republic. And they're just like, hello, I don't know, Romulus, like a wand. It's our finest wand. We gave a regular wand to your brother Remus. I also really like, because I know that part of the reason why she did is because it's a kid's book, but like lots of magic and like modern day fantasy like doesn't have wands. What other series has wands?
I don't know. Wicked?
I guess, yeah, Wicked. I don't know. Apparently Lev Grossman wrote not a knockoff of Harry Potter, but it's the same idea of like wizards at a school and they're teenagers, but apparently they all have sex and stuff and they're like actual teenagers. And like, sure, fine. It's not what I was looking for.
But okay.
Yeah, okay. Maybe they have wands. I don't know. Listeners, if you know any modern book series that have wizards with wands, please let us know.
But I mean, wands in this particular universe, in this particular world, makes sense to me because it is a conductor of magic. Because wandless magic also exists. There's wandless and wordless nonverbal magic. They are present. However, they are harder to achieve perfection. And just because there's like, the wand is a conductor that makes it easier, I guess, just a concentration tool. It's a tool.
It's a tool. And then we have Mr. Ollivander, and he immediately looks wild. and goes, yes, your mother, you have your mother's eyes. I remember her. And then immediately goes like, yeah, this was her wand, 10 1/4 inches long, swishy, made of willow. Nice wand for charm work.
And here is where in the Russian edition, we see a profound example of sexism. Because in the original text, it is nice wand for charm work, which is just a branch of magic. Yes, charms. In the Russian version, it is a nice wand for a witch.
Ooh, okay. I don't like that.
Implying that it is a feminine wand.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, to be fair, the wands are kind of coded. Willow is swishy, and then his father's wand is described as mahogany, 11 inches, a little more power, and excellent for transfiguration.
Wink, wink.
Yeah.
Nudge, wink, wink.
Nudge, nudge. It's also described as pliable.
Yep.
Yeah. Which, like, I don't know. So I think it's known, like a phrase in Eastern Europe as well, where it's like the man is the head of the house and the woman is the neck. She directs him where to go. Like this wand choice is very much giving me
I guess. Are you implying that like later on Lily made James?
It's also like they're in a tradition.
Shaped him.
They're in like the traditional gender role that people are okay with, where like, yeah, the man's officially the head of the house, but the woman's making the choices, you know? Whereas like if you have that gender dynamic without that sort of like secret behind the throne power, it just feels oppressive. Mm-hmm. And then we also have a line here where Harry wished that Mr. Ollivander would blink because the silvery eyes were a bit creepy.
Well, I actually like Mr. Ollivander in the new series, in the new HBO series, the portrayal. Because,
who's the actor?
He was in Game of Thrones. Oh my God. He was one of the maesters.
The good maester or the creepy maester from King's?
The creepy maester.
Oh, the creepy maester. Yeah, Maester Pycelle. Mm-hmm.
No, not the old one.
The one who was Cersei's hand.
Yes, I think that
Qyburn.
one. I think that one.
Yeah, that's Maester Qyburn. Well, he's not a maester because he had his chain taken away, but yes. Anyway, for listeners who haven't figured it out yet, Xenia is the Potterhead, and I'm the A Song of Ice and Fire head. But we both love each other's.
Lesser.
Thank you. But we both love each other's stories quite a lot.
Yep. Yes, Anton Lesser is going to be Mr. Ollivander.
I think he'd actually be really good for that role.
The new HBO show. Let me just make sure that I'm not mistaken. Yep, he is Garrick Ollivander.
Also, Ollivander in this book has no sense of personal space because he touches the scar on his forehead.
Like he's just touching a minor period.
Yeah.
Well,
like this is the paragraph. Mr. Ollivander had come so close that he and Harry were almost nose to nose. Harry could see himself reflected in those misty eyes. And that's where Mr. Ollivander touched the lightning scar on Harry's forehead with a long white finger.
Yeah, that's totally not creepy at all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then he says, yeah, I'm sorry to say I sold the wand who did it. And then he describes Voldemort's wand. Then he sees Hagrid and is very pleasant, remembers Hagrid's wand, which was 16 inches, appropriately sized for a half giant.
Questionably, because when I read this, I was like, okay, 16 inches is like, it's big for human hands, but I think with the size that Hagrid is described, it's not comically small, but it's kind of on the smaller side for him.
And then Mr. Ollivander is like, you don't use the wand after you got expelled and it got snapped in half. And Hagrid's like, I totally don't do that while holding his own necklace.
No, totally don't do that.
Yeah. And it's very clear to everybody, including Mr. Ollivander, that Hagrid totally still does. It's also the first time we know that Hagrid got expelled, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Which, foreshadowing. But it's something I really appreciate is it's never...
No, it's not the first time because he says himself in the previous chapter that he got expelled, but does not explain how or why.
Something,
goes to sleep.
Again, I'm noticing is that I really appreciate that Harry doesn't treat Hagrid any different because he got expelled.
Yep.
So then Ollivander explains what wands are, that there's some wood and then the powerful magical substance in the center. I actually have a question for you who trained as a veterinarian. Are heartstrings a real thing? The only thing heartstrings like that I know from is when the phrase "someone's tugging on your heartstrings"?
I feel like this is just an expression to describe the tendons inside.
Okay.
So like there are fibros. So there are fibers in the heart cavities.
Okay.
So that are kind of like
Stringy.
stringy. They yeah.
Okay.
They actually control the valves. So yeah.
And then in contrast to the film, Harry actually goes through quite a few wands, which I think it's at one point, where is it? The pile of tried wands was mounting higher and higher on the spindly chair, but the more wands Mr. Ollivander pulled from the shelves, the happier he seemed to become. And this is like, he likes it because it's a challenge. But I remember very much the film because they do the rule of three, where...
yeah, it's the third one that he
Yeah.
tries. Of course, third time is a charm. It works.
and they have the great lighting hit on young Daniel Radcliffe.
Kind of like that.
Not that, but yes, I get the same vibe.
Yeah.
And then we find out that Harry's wand, the one that worked, has a feather from the same phoenix as Voldemort's wand. Very curious. And that also Ollivander thinks this will mean that they'll get great things from Harry. And I think this scene was actually better done in the film, even though the dialogue is essentially all the same.
Yeah.
I think it's something that really benefits from having a voice that can like pause at the right moment. I mean, like JK does put in a couple pauses, but I don't think they're necessarily in the great place. But I don't know, maybe I'll compare it again to the scene in the film. And
Yes, and I think this is kind of solidifies my description of Mr. Ollivander as like chaotic neutral, because he presents himself completely as like just centric, a central position, because he says that after all, he who must not be named did great things. Terrible, yes, but great, which kind of, yeah, critical thinking, yes, but also this like centrism.
yeah. And we learned that the wand cost 7 gold gallons, which is, for those who are keeping up with my converting of the currencies, $95 US and 20 cents. So
This is in current
US
current
dollars.
US dollars. So according to HP Lexicon, on the 31st of July of 1991, 7 gallons would be 35 pounds or 59 US dollars.
It kind of makes me think, okay, like I know that the Weasleys don't have any money, but also like, why did they give Ron a hand-me-down wand? Like the wand seems to be a very important.
Yes, it does.
And like, I'm not saying that like, okay, I feel like weird because I'm like judging their financial situation and how they choose to spend money, but like it is something where I feel like this would be the moment to actually
Chip out. I want to say, though, that in the second book, where we're going to get there, when Weasleys get to their vault, there is 1 single galleon in there.
That's true, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then they're going back to the Muggle world, very sad. And, you know, the Muggles are all gaping at them, but that doesn't matter. He gets dinner with Hagrid. That's nice. He got Harry a hamburger. And now the Muggle world looks strange. So this is, I think, a really great line. Everything looks so strange somehow when he's, you know, in the Muggle world, where we see now that Harry's now part of this new world. That's his world, the Muggle world, which he never really fitted before, is going to be something that he never really goes back to.
And I do like this line that Harry says, everyone thinks I'm special. But apparently Harry doesn't think that he's special. And Tom Riddle really thought he was special.
Yeah.
So here we get this very, very, very early juxtaposition.
And then Hagrid reacts really kindly. He says, "Don't worry, Harry, you'll learn fast enough. Everybody starts at the beginning at Hogwarts. You'll be just fine. Just be yourself. I know it's hard. You've been singled out, and that's always hard. But you'll have a great time at Hogwarts. I did. Still do, as a matter of fact." And I think that's just such a gentle, kind thing to say, because it's true. You know, it's going to be difficult for him because he's been singled out, but he's saying, like, there's nothing bad about this, you know? It'll be difficult, but you're going to be okay.
And you're going to build character, and he will.
Yeah. And then he gives Harry his tickets and says, any problems with the Dursleys, just let me know and I'll, make it all okay.
And then Harry departs on a train from London back to Dursley's from London that Harry has never been to before, alone with a bunch of books and cauldrons and an owl in a cage on a train to a part of the Surrey where apparently he has to get from train to Dursley's house somehow, and he has no muggle money. And so that's very interesting. Actually, Harry Potter Lexicon tried to figure out where exactly would the Little Winging, the imaginary town, and they actually figured it out. So it has to be somewhere between Heathrow and Langley. That's what they figured out.
Yeah, it's not a nice thing to do to a kid, especially who's never been to London before. But also, he doesn't explain what platform 9 3/4 is. Again, Hagrid has a good heart, but maybe not the...
Maybe a little bit of an undersight.
Yeah, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed.
Oh, yeah. But this is how we end this chapter, with Harry going back to Dursley's, back to the Muggle world that now seems all plastic and artificial to him because he's known his home world now.
So at the end, he's like trying to watch Hagrid, but he blinks and Hagrid disappears. And I think this is the only inclination we get of apparition until, it's not for a while, it's like the 4th or 3rd book that we learn about apparition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 3rd book, I remember Snape mentions that you can't apparate inside Hogwarts. So there is mention of apparition there. In the 4th book...
Because at the World Cup, most of the wizards are apparating in.
Yeah. So maybe 3rd book, I think.
Yeah. We maybe don't know the most about Harry Potter, but we feel the most.
I feel for Harry.
Yeah, but I think it's a really good chapter in terms of like the amount of content we get out of it. Oh, that sounds like such an ugly word, content. But I mean, like, we get quite a lot about the wizarding world. We get to meet both people and ideas that will define not only the entire book, but the entire series. Generally good. I will say in terms of like sometimes chapters mimic the 3-act structure. And I don't think this one really does per se, but I don't know. I don't bring that up to say it's bad because it doesn't mimic the 3-act structure. I think if every chapter mimicked the 3-act structure, books would be really fucking boring. But it is very much like it feels almost like a video game chapter, like time to go to Diagon Alley. Enter the leaky cauldron.
Yeah, it's like the beginning of the game where you have to collect your starter
your starter goods, your loot.
Starter gear. Yeah, starter gear.
Oh, yeah. Then you have like these like little challenges like shake every hand in the leaky cauldron.
Try at least 5 different ones. I have to say that the Minalima edition of this book portrays the Diagon Alley in such a beautiful way. It is so cool. And it is so cute. Gringotts is really cool here too. Mm-hmm. Galleon loans, it says.
Which again, how does the economy work in the Wizarding world? We don't know how the economy works. We don't know how the economy works in this world. So
yeah,
who are we to say?
Here I'm showing you the Harry's Vault, which has a number from the movies, but we're not given a number of his vault here in the book.
I just clarify, I don't know if we explained this, but Minalima is an edition of Harry Potter, which is like beautifully done by the people who worked on the Harry Potter films. And it's, I would say, like illustrated or picture book-esque version of Harry Potter, where they'll have like pictures throughout the page where the words are, but they'll also have some sections that are just pictures, and it's gorgeous.
They're beautifully illustrated. If you have a chance to get your hands on one of those, so the first 3 books are illustrated by the Minalima studio. So there are 2 graphic designers, Minafora Mina and Mirafora Mina and Eduardo Lima. They've worked on set of all films, of all Harry Potter films. And so the most beautiful, most well-known piece of prop that you would know from them is the Letter to Hogwarts, which is completely done by them. It's like a staple piece.
You can actually pay for a
actually pay
bespoke
for it.
Letter of Hogwarts from them, but it's super expensive.
It
isn't
is like it is about $4,000 to get if it's customized with your name and all that. It's about $4,000.
Yeah.
If it's just a replica of Harry's letter, it's less than that. But yeah, they can do it like hand make it for you for $4,000.
Wow.
USD. Yes. So yeah, the first 3 books have been illustrated by them. The 4th book, for some reason, has been commissioned to a different artist who tried to keep the style, but it's still, it reads as different. So I only have the 3 books by Minalima. Yeah, and on this very colorful note, we are wrapping this up, and we will meet you the next time.
For our next chapter.
Our next chapter, which is...
it's like platform 3 3/4, isn't it? Yeah. The journey from platform 9 3/4.
Yes,